Welcome back. My name is Holly. I am a second year, 7th grade math teacher in Texas. And I wanted to take some time today to just talk about my journey into education. I took kind of a unconventional, unorthodox route, I guess, and just reflect on my first year and what I think about the teaching profession. So I have known since I was like 3 years old that I wanted to be a teacher. I remember being like really little, and I got like one of those playset like teacher stations that had a map on it and letters and just all this stuff like that you could set up your own little classroom. And I sat all of my siblings down and my mom down and gave them spelling tests and math tests when I couldn't even read or write myself. Like I was literally so little, but I just loved it so much. And then throughout every grade in school, all I could think about during school was, oh, well, when I have my own classroom, I'm gonna do it like this. Or when I'm a teacher, I'm gonna do this, or I won't do this. So it's just always been a part of who I was. Like I've always known that. And I'm very lucky and very blessed that I have that clarity my entire life. Also very blessed that that is now my reality. So I am very happy that I'm finally teaching. It is a dream come true. So I went to community college right after high school for 2 years, and I was on the right track for education when I was there, but I did not take like I took education classes throughout those 2 years, but the first class that I took that required observation was like the last semester that I was at community college. And all that time I thought I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. Well, when I took that class and I had to go observe a 2nd grade classroom, I wanted to rip my hair out. I hated it so much. Like I just, all of a sudden, all of my fantasies about having an elementary school class just disappeared because it was not for me. I realized I didn't really like that age of kids. Like one of the things that stood out to me from that observation was how much time is spent transitioning. She would get everyone seated, pull out your book, spend, I'm not even kidding, 5 minutes on the lesson, and then would already have to transition to the next thing because transitioning 25 3rd graders or 2nd graders takes that much time. And it lost all appeal for me because I realized I made that, realization, thankfully before I got certified, but still I made that so close to transitioning to university that I really didn't get to do the appropriate amount of research into the university that I chose, which was University of Texas at Dallas. So they have I think all of the UT schools, they have a teaching program called iTeach, I think. And I was like, oh, perfect, I'll just do that. Well, I didn't realize that for elementary and high school, because I made the jump from elementary to high school, I didn't even consider middle school. I was like, I'm gonna teach high school. I didn't realize that in that program at that school, you would have to major in the content that you want to teach. And I was like, okay, so I went from being an education major to being a math major, which would have been fine. I love math, but I had 2 years worth of general courses and education courses, not math courses. Because when I was teaching elementary, I didn't need math outside of like the general math courses. And now all of a sudden I had to catch up on all of these math courses. Not to mention that the year I transitioned from community college to university was the year that COVID shut everything down. So I'm transitioning to university, everything's online. These professors and the school itself is not prepared to be online. So that was already a struggle, just everything being online. And I met my husband that summer. My priorities changed, obviously, because I fell in love with this man and I had to change like all of my plans for the next 2 years. Because when I'm, just living on my own, or I was actually living at home, but when I'm just planning for myself, it doesn't matter. Like I could finish college wherever. Well, when I met him, he was going into the Army. So I had to kind of reevaluate and realized that if I wanted to finish college there, I might have to be separate from him if he gets stationed somewhere else, or I would need to be in a program that is easily transferable once we found out where he was going to be stationed. A lot of unnecessary information, but just all of that to say, a lot of things happened at once, and I wasn't prepared to make those decisions. By my second semester at UTD, I knew it wasn't going to work. It was going to take me an extra year and a half to graduate from UTD, which I was not willing to do because college is expensive and I was ready to get married and start a life. And so I started looking into online degrees that would just get me through college. And, being online, it would allow me to live wherever we needed to. And I could theoretically have a job while doing that, because trying to survive on one salary is easier said than done. I looked into Southern New Hampshire University, which is a completely online program, and it actually had exactly what I needed just to get my bachelor's. It does not have an education program. It has master's in education, but not a bachelor's. So I kind of put education to the side and decided that I was just going to finish, get my bachelor's online, and then pursue an alternate certification once I graduated. Perfect. Great. I made that decision, immediately got engaged, and then we got married a few months later. So that was the right decision to do. And I loved my classes at SNHU. It was, like I said, completely online. It followed a very simple pattern. It is created with people who work full time, maybe parents or just people that can't afford to go to college during the day, stuff like that. It's created with those types of people in mind. So I was able to get a full-time job and finish my last year of college at the same time. Very lucky with that, and it really wasn't that much more expensive than regular college. May 2022, I graduated from SNHU with just a general studies degree with a focus in educational psychology. So I took a ton of educational classes at my community college and university, and a ton of educational classes. They were called psychology, but they were education at SNHU. So I have done so much prep for education. I took all those math classes. I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I decided not to go into an alternate certification immediately because, I don't know if y'all remember, right after COVID, the educational system was kind of falling apart. Some would say it still is, but I just really was not sure. There was that mass exodus of teachers leaving the profession, and I was really conflicted because this dream job that I've had my whole life suddenly didn't look as appealing. So I was really worried. And at that point, I had been working at an engineering company for 6 months, and I really, really loved it. So at this point, my thought process was, well, I could just work for this company until I decide to have kids. Then I can stay home with the kids, get my alt cert then, and then teach while they're in school. That way I have the same schedule as them. Again, great plan, loved it. Fast forward just under a year to March, April of 2023, so last year. I could not get teaching off my mind. It was all I could think about again. I just started imagining what my classroom would be like and what the students would be like and what the day-to-day would be like. I mean, I was on YouTube watching day in the life, week in the life videos of teachers and just trying to get as much information as I could about what it's like teaching right now, and is it actually as bad as how everyone is making it sound. So I talked to my husband about it and decided to apply to iTeach, which is an alternative certification process. And I decided to go with that one. There are a ton of programs out there, and I looked at so many, but ultimately I decided to go with iTeach because it was the most cost effective. It required very little payment up front, and you could get your certification while you were teaching. So I was really worried about having to stop working for a semester to do student teaching, but this program didn't require that. So last year, while I was teaching, I was actually still working on my certification while getting a full-time teacher salary, which was huge. And it had great reviews. It allowed you, like I said, to pay it off as you go. I think all in all, the program ended up being, I want to say maybe $4,500, but you would definitely need to do some research into that because that's just what I think it was. I can't really remember. So I applied for this program in April. I get approved, I get accepted, but the way the program worked, it would not allow me to attempt certification in math 7 through 12, which is what I wanted. I wanted to teach high school because I didn't have enough high-level math credits on my transcript. Had to redirect a little bit and get my 4 through 8 certification. That's fine. I could start in middle school and then get my certification for 7 through 12, move to high school. Not a big deal. So I'm working on the certification. I know that most of the hiring for teachers is done at the end of the school year, not necessarily over the summer, and definitely not at the beginning of the school year. So it's April. School lets out in May. And I am not eligible for a job as a teacher until I have taken like half of my courses through iTeach, taken my content exam and passed, and done 30 observation hours. So I have less than a month to get all of that done if I want a shot at getting a job. Very stressed. It was a whirlwind of a month. I would come home from work and work on my courses. I was calling the districts around me to see if I could get in for some observation. And again, it's the end of the year. I think by the time I was eligible to even go for the observations, it was already May. And in May, it's star review and stuff. And the star test and everything. So I was able to get in with a middle school to observe a math teacher. So that was good. And it was like, if I had waited a week to call, I probably wouldn't have gotten it. So, and I took and passed my content exam, but at the time that I started applying for jobs, I did not know if I had passed yet or not. So you take it and it takes like a week for them to get your results to you. So as soon as I took my content exam, I put in applications because I was like, chances are, like, I don't know how long it's going to take for them to look at my application and possibly reach out with an interview. I applied to like 3 districts around me, and I get a call from the same school that I had done my observations at. And I was like, okay. And they offered me an interview, and I was like, great, I guess, but also like, I was not in love with the school that I observed at. It was kind of like a plan B. It was not my first choice to teach there, but that was the only interview I got. I was just gonna do the interview for practice interviewing because I've never interviewed for a teaching position before. I was like, well, it'll just be practice, and then, hopefully by that time, someone else will have called and asked for an interview. That did not happen. I went in for this interview. I mean, just freaking home run. I'm such a good interviewer, I will say it. But it was a really, really good interview. They told me that they really wanted to hire me, but they had to do some like background checks and stuff before they could offer me the position. But they were like, go home, talk to your husband about it, because we will be calling you later, basically, to offer you the job. And I was like, okay. So I had gone on my lunch break from my engineering job. They knew that I was leaving to teach, so they were very supportive and all that sort of stuff. But on my drive from the school back to work, it was maybe 20 minutes. I had been on the road for like 10 minutes and they called offering me the position. And I was like, oh my gosh. I wasn't sure what to do. Should I just go ahead and accept it? Because what if I don't get another opportunity? But what if someone calls me tomorrow offering me an interview? So I was just very, very conflicted. I didn't know what to do. But I talked to my husband about it and I prayed a lot about it. And I called them back that day and accepted the position. So that was between April and I guess it was the first day of summer that I had my interview. So like May 29th or something like that. So they offered me that job. I was not eligible to teach yet because I had not finished, or I hadn't gotten the results from my content exam, but they were fine with it. They were like, hey, I'm sure you passed. Just get us the credentials when you get them. So they were very desperate, but also I guess maybe really liked me, or maybe they were just desperate. I still don't know. But I did accept that job, and I had until December. So I said I had to finish half of those iTeach courses before I was eligible to apply. Well, then in order to get my certification, I had to finish all of my courses by December. It was 6 months after some date. I don't remember. The timing on everything was weird. When school started, I had to finish all of those courses. I had to have 5 observations from like an iTeach mentor come and just make sure that I'm doing an okay job. And she was so sweet and supportive. So that was all around a lovely experience. And I had to take and pass my PPR, which it stands for something pedagogy, something. Basically, that's the test that's like, are you a good teacher? You know, like, do you know how to run a class and what should you do in this situation? So it's very common for people to fail that one. I finished all my coursework by December. If you are doing this, please try and get as much of that done before you actually start the year teaching, because I was so swamped with my actual job teaching that I did not have a lot of time to write all these essays they wanted me to do and just do the courses. And also, some of it would have been really helpful to have done before I started teaching. Anyway, just a heads up, try and get it done before. But I was able to get it done. I took and passed my PPR on the first try. And I obtained my official standard certification to teach in Texas in June of this year. So that was really exciting. I also, some of you already know if you've been watching some of my other videos, I took and passed my 7 through 12 content exam as well. So I am officially certified to teach 4th through 12th grade math in Texas. And it just feels really good. So I am starting my 2nd year this week. I actually already started in-service last week, and we get students on Wednesday. So I am nervous but excited. I did want to mention, overall, I would absolutely recommend doing an alternative certifications. I can only speak for iTeach, obviously, but I thought it was overall really, I don't want to say easy. I knew what was expected of me and I knew how I needed to get done. They were really, really great about communicating with me. You know, I had a lot of people that I could contact if I needed help, and it was affordable. I will say though, I think I had a little bit of a different experience because the majority of the courses I was taking in iTeach, I had already either taken a very similar course in college, in person in college, or I had already discussed the topics in college. So for me, all of those iTeach courses were more of a refresher than they were actual courses. So if you are someone who knows nothing about education, nothing about pedagogy, it might be more of a struggle for you because you'll be having to actually learn. Whereas for me, I was like, oh yeah, I remember learning about this, just refresher, and then taking the quizzes and writing the papers. So I feel like I can't have a completely unbiased perspective on it. And just reflecting on last year, I had no idea what I was doing at all. I think back to some of the lessons that I taught and I'm like, what were you doing, girl? What's going on? Why did you think that classroom management technique would work? Why did you say that? Why did you explain this that way? I truly was just in survival mode every single day. One amazing thing is I had a coworker that was on my team that I worked very closely with that was my lifeboat that year. She carried me through the year, even when I was so overwhelmed and stressed out. There was one point where I was on the verge of a mental breakdown. I just couldn't stop crying, and she basically made me take the day off. I don't know why I was so, I just didn't even consider taking a day off, and she was like, no, you're not coming to work tomorrow. You need a minute, you need a breather. And she's very experienced. She knew what I was going through, so I was very, very blessed to have her last year. But last year was a unique year, not just because it was my first year, but of our team of 4, so there's 4 7th grade math teachers at my campus last year. It was me, my bestie, who, like I said, just dragged me along all last year, and then 2 other teachers, one of whom quit in December, and the other one quit, I think, in February. So first semester was crazy because everything was new and I was just like trying to keep my head above water. Second semester was crazy because we were trying to like they got a long-term sub in one room and we're trying to catch him up to speed, and then they hired a new teacher for the other room and we're trying to get her up to speed, and then they had to let the long-term sub go and they just never replaced them. So from spring break until the end of the year, that classroom didn't have a teacher. It was just subs. And that was crazy. I feel so bad for those students. Like, I kind of feel bad for my own students because they had me who didn't know what I was doing. But like, those students just had no structure and no stability. Like, that's crazy. The joys of being a teacher, I guess. So this year, I'm very excited going into it with a really great team. I'm just hoping everyone makes it to summer. That would be a success in my eyes compared to last year. But honestly, even with how crazy the year was for me and just how much of a learning curve I had, I'm still so proud of myself because my students grew a lot last year. Like, we were able to look at the results of iReady, which is just like an online learning platform that we use, and then also the STAR test. And based on that, like, I had over 60% of my students grow, which, yay, I was afraid it was going to be so much lower because I didn't think I did a good job. And then my student survey, so the students randomly get selected to answer this survey about their teacher, and I teach math. My kids don't like math. Nobody likes math. So I fully expected my results to be very low, but I had over 70% approval rating. So that was so validating. Just, I think seeing that just really affirmed that I am in the right career and doing what I love. I'm actually good at it, and I know I'm going to just continue getting better at it. So it was just a really nice thing to see after the year that I had. And I'm excited for this year, and I'm just gonna keep getting better and keep learning and growing, and hopefully one day I can be that teacher that, steps in and carries the first year along and convinces them not to quit. So I'm really excited for this year. I have a lot of new ideas, and I'm excited to meet my kids and just get started. So, I'm excited. I don't know if I'm ready. I'm nervous, but I am excited. So if you have any questions about that journey and what that looked like for me, please let me know in the comments, and I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you. If you enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can be a part of this journey with me. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.